Welcome back. I'm Jonathan Capehart in for Melissa Harris Perry. There is only one abortion clinic in the entire state of Mississippi. The Jackson Women's Health Organization performs more than 2,000 abortions a year. Anti-abortion protesters are outside every day. Whether it can continue that work may be determined in a federal courtroom tomorrow. Now, let me back up. In 2012, the Mississippi legislature passed a law that requires doctors at abortion clinics, well, that is, the one abortion clinic, to have admitting privileges at a local hospital. Admitting privileges allow a physician to treat a patient in the hospital. The Jackson Women's Health Organization has tried to get such privileges, but every single hospital they asked refused. Some told the clinic that they could not handle the political fallout of helping the clinic stay open. And so the only abortion clinic in Mississippi is facing a shutdown by the state. Women would have to travel out of state for abortion services. So a woman in Jackson would have to travel 170 miles south to the closest city with an abortion clinic, Baton Rouge, Louisiana. She would have to drive 185 miles to New Orleans. To the north, 210 miles to Memphis, or 240 miles east to Birmingham. But the Jackson Clinic is fighting the law in court. The clinic claims that the law is an underhanded ploy to eliminate the constitutionally protected right to an abortion. For now, the state has been blocked from enforcing the law by a district court judge, but the state is fighting back. Mississippi went to the Federal Court of Appeals for the Fifth Circuit and asked it to overturn the lower court's injunction. Tomorrow, the court will hear oral arguments on that question, and what it decides in the weeks or months ahead will determine whether the women of Mississippi still have access to full reproductive care. Joining me now, Dr. Willie Parker, one of the doctors who travels into Mississippi to provide services at the Jackson Clinic, Chloe Angel, senior editor at feministing.com, Amanda Allen, state legislative counsel, Center for Reproductive Rights, and joining us back at the table, Marcus Mabry, editor-at-large at the New York Times. Dr. Parker, you're one of the two doctors that provides care at the Jackson Clinic. What happens if the clinic is forced to close?
Well, I hope we don't find out, but if the clinic closes, women will be left with desperate measures for those women who can't travel the distances that you cited. We know that when women are pregnant and they don't want to be, I can tell you right now that there are already do-it-yourself instructions on the internet. There are already companies marketing drugs, whether they're FDA approved or not, to try and make that happen. So women will be left with desperate measures, and those desperate measures will increase the suffering, potential death of women that we know occurs when abortion is not legally available.
Now, the Fifth Circuit claimed that it was not an undue burden for a woman to travel 150 miles each way in Texas to get to a clinic. The Fifth Circuit Judge Edith Jones questioned whether a drive of that length truly places an undue burden on women seeking an abortion. Quote, "Do you know how long that takes in Texas at 75 miles an hour?" she asked. "This is a peculiarly flat and not congested highway." So, Dr. Parker, let me ask you, is a trip of hundreds of miles an undue burden?
Well, any rule that stands in between a woman and her constitutionally guaranteed right to make the decision about whether or not to continue a pregnancy in consultation with a health care provider is an undue burden. Whether you're talking about state or federal, these laws do nothing to enhance the safety. And so if a clinic, already women are having to drive hours, and they're having challenges around, for those women who don't have a car or who can't arrange transportation, those women are condemned to continue pregnancies that they don't want, or to incur the expense, or more importantly, the complications associated with pregnancy.
I have to ask you, Dr. Parker, why do this work? Why fly from Chicago to Mississippi to provide these services?
Well, because it's the right thing to do. You can ask the question about, is it important? Is it popular? But like Dr. King said, there's a point at which you have to ignore all those things and decide what is the right thing to do. I think the effort to make sure that women have access to the services is the right thing to do.
So, Amanda, why is what happens at the Fifth Circuit tomorrow so important?
Well, the question that the court is really asking tomorrow is, can a state constitutionally do, indirectly and underhandedly, what it very clearly may not do directly, which is to outright ban abortion? And so that is, at its core, the question that the court is asking tomorrow. But as Dr. Parker just said, you know, the real story here is about Mississippi women. And what will it mean for the women in Mississippi for the first time since Roe versus Wade was decided over 40 years ago? Women in a state do not have access to a safe and legal abortion clinic. And so the real story here is, you know, what's at stake is the lives and the health and the dignity of women in Mississippi.
So what happens if the court ends the temporary stay? Does the clinic just shut down immediately?
Well, we are absolutely, you know, pursuing every legal opportunity that we have to make sure that that clinic remains open. And so there's a possibility to appeal to the full Fifth Circuit panel. Of course, there's a potential to appeal to the Supreme Court. But if that court puts into effect the law that passed in 2012, that does mean an immediate closure of that clinic.
Chloe, I'm going to have you listen to Mississippi Governor Phil Bryant describe
My pleasure.
The law in his state at the State of the State address this year. Take a listen.
By strengthening the Child Protection Act and by requiring that abortionists obtain admitting privileges at local hospitals, we are protecting women's health. But let me be clear. On this unfortunate date of Roe v. Wade, my goal is to end abortion in Mississippi.
So, Chloe, given what the governor just said, what does that tell you about the state's intention in passing this law?
Well, he hasn't made any bones about it, right? I mean, the stated goal of this particular policy is to protect women's health. And if that is actually the goal of this policy, this is a terrible policy. Women are far more likely to die in childbirth than they are during a safe, legal abortion, and they are far more likely to die from an unsafe, illegal abortion than they are from a safe, legal one. So if the goal here is to protect women's health, this is a terrible policy. And anyone who can look at the data on that and see what kind of an impact this will have on women's lives and women's health has no business making policy.
There's a map that we have to show that these visiting privileges thing is not an isolated situation. This map shows all the states where admitting privileges laws are being considered or on the books. The yellow states have passed and enacted their laws. The red states have passed their laws, but they've been temporarily blocked by pending court action. And in the orange states, legislatures are considering adding these states to the books. Dr. Parker, what do you make of this wide-ranging assault?
I think it's attempt to gut the provisions of federal policy. Roe is that enshrines the right of a woman to have make the decision about abortion. And since there's been no success in overturning Roe, the goal is to make the pursuit of abortion care practically impossible. So even if it remains legal, all of the barriers, whether you're talking about trap laws, notification, policies and the sort, they all serve to stand in the way of blocking women from having abortion.
I think stay right there, because this extreme crackdown on reproductive rights extends far beyond Mississippi. When we come back, a look at what happens when states use legal means to restrict the rights of women. But first, a look back to what First Lady Betty Ford had to say about abortion and the law 1 year after Roe v. Wade.
As far as the question on abortion, that is a matter of the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court made the ruling, and the Supreme Court is the law of our land. And as long as that is the law of our land, I abide by the law of the land.